The delay, I'm going to sit around and wait for people to show up because I didn't do a promo for this. Let's see if I can get on Instagram real quick as well. Hallelujah. All right, this is the Jacket Project live Tuesday session. If no one shows up, I'm gonna do whatever I want. If you show up, speak or forever hold your peace because I want to hear from you. And that's the truth. All right. Hallelujah. So I am on the third week of the Jacket Lives. And I wanted to either abort it and do what I really want to do or talk to you guys about it. So if you're here, please go ahead and talk to me. I want to see if I can see chat. Make sure I can see chat. I have no clue why I'm not seeing chat. Let's see, chat filter, top, messages, community. Okay. All right, so this is the Tuesday live. I'm a little late, multitasking this morning, and we may talk about the jacket or we may talk about other stuff. So how about that? And if you're on Instagram, if you're on my Instagram live right now, hop on YouTube because I really want to just stay there and do it there mostly. All right. So the jacket challenge can be as easy or as difficult as you want it to be. If you saw the other sessions, you'll see that I talked about the pattern, I adjusted the pattern. Hey, thank you for joining. And so I was going to cut it out today. I didn't have enough time this morning because announcement. The most important thing to me these days is sleep and my mental health and how I feel, because you can fake it as long as you want, but if you don't really feel good, and especially for me, sleep is huge. There's nothing you can, there's no way I can fake it and make a TikTok fun, stand on my head video. So I'm doing good. Last night was good. The day before was not, so it's a process. And I want to just let you guys know that my new channel, you better go check out before I decide to take it down because I am completely vulnerable in this channel. It's called Susan Elias Sleep Project, where I talk about sleep. And then I'm going to touch on the other things like the migraines and the other pains, because there's definitely, different components. Okay, so people have a message that is being held. I don't know if that's just funky stuff that's going on already. Shoot, low power on this one. So I'm not going to be able to stay on Instagram, guys. Go on Susan Elias Couture for my live to continue my live because the phone is dying and I am dedicated to the YouTube people at this moment. See you there. All right, let me just tell them. YouTube. All right. I will be right there. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. If you have any questions, you can start putting it out there. I was going to do a video on a subject that I might just talk about today because apparently no one actually wants to make a jacket. Okay, so would love to would love a pattern like the top you're wearing, but with a built-in bra with cups. Well, I'm not your girl, okay? For me to develop a pattern takes about 6 months, and you can buy too cheap at Target. So just go there, just go there. Yeah, focusing on my health, and like I said, this new channel, Susan Eli's Sleep Project. So, you know, please go check that out, because very vulnerable, and I was starting to kind of share it on TikTok and Instagram as well, and just going to keep it on YouTube. And like I said, it was kind of a promise I made to myself for you guys, that if I ever crack the code with the sleep disorder, because it's multifaceted, there's a lot of different areas that cause that problem, you know, that I was going to share. Everything that I learned, anything that I conquered, I was going to share. So go ahead, Susan Elias Sleep Project. Getting a few subscribers there. I'm getting interaction. I'm actually getting more views there than I am here, which is, you know, typical YouTube. But yeah, so let's talk the jacket. So I wanted to finish the couture skirt, the long skirt for the couture silk jacket. And I didn't, I started to work on that sewing wise. And the machine was giving me some trouble. FYI, guys, I'm a designer, and I can do all of it, right? I can make the patterns, I can, you know, run the company, I can direct the seamstresses, and I can also sew, but I don't ever seem to have the quietness or the ability, you know, to want to just sit down and just sew. And frankly, when I do want to sit down and sew, I don't want to make it a how-to. Like, I don't want to have to set up 14 cameras and angles so that you can see and sew along. So I think when I do these other two projects, I'm probably going to just do recap. You know what I mean? Because I don't mind, you know, filming this part and showing you the patterns and explaining all the thing about design. But doing the sew along type stuff, which there's a ton of it on my YouTube channel already, is difficult. It is the most difficult thing to do, if you haven't noticed already. Unless I have somebody walking around behind me with the camera pointing down while I'm sewing, it ain't happening right now. And I also have to feel the drive and want, you know, I just want to feel it again. Like, you know, I'm not even sure how long I would just want to hang out on this channel, because it's 10 plus years, and I really appreciate all of you guys, but everything's there. Yes, I miss my cat, and cat number 2. Cat number 1 died. Let's Go Sewing with Joanne Banco. And I keep thinking you're the Connie Banco lady, but you're not. Read recently about how human comparing a cat purring thought you would find, oh God, I miss that. You have no idea. So I didn't know what a hard animal was, and Tubby was my first cat and my first animal ever, and she was like my emotional support animal. Like, she knew I was sick before I knew I was sick. And she would find me, if I laid down on the couch for a moment, she would come up to me and just get on my chest, literally, and sit there and purr. Like, I couldn't do anything. Like, you're not going anywhere. I'm gonna purr till you calm down. Like, there is no medicine that compares to that. There's no medicine. So cat number 2, Penny Pritzker, she's lovely, and she's getting very, very close to me, and she's going to turn into another love of my life, and I'm resisting that. But she doesn't do the same. But every once in a while, I've noticed, especially lately with what I'm struggling with, that she'll like hop on the couch, and she doesn't do that, and like curl up where my feet is. Last night, not that I needed this, She hopped in my bottom drawer and slept there for the first 4 hours. And I had stupid Aura Ring on, and that's a whole other thing. You'll see it on my other channel. And it didn't even register any of my sleep. So I'm like, F you, basically. You know what I'm saying? So that's not going to happen anymore. But yeah, the cat purring and the cat knowing, and mine was 15, and she should have lasted till at least 17. Yeah, and I'm telling you, purring nonstop till you calm down. Like, I don't know how to take a break, so when I take a break and I'm laying down or whatever, I have to time myself because I will get up in less than a minute. Like, okay, my break is over. No. And the thing about the cat one, especially when they come and they crawl up on your chest, is that you're not going anywhere. And I've recorded her purring close to 20 minutes, like nonstop. So it's incredible. It's the most healing thing that you'll ever experience. It's better than any drugs or therapy. It is. And so that's the beauty of them. You'll also notice that most YouTubers mainly have more cats than they have dogs because less interruption, you know, while they're filming and stuff. But yeah, there's nothing like it. So, oh, hi, Mr. Edgar from UK. Welcome. Thank you. Please chime in. I don't like to talk to myself. Yeah, she's like a nurse. I'm telling you, she was my support animal. She was my support animal. I listed her as my support animal. So even though I didn't drag her around when I went out, she had to be here. She had to be here with me wherever I lived or wherever I was. So they're special creatures. They're special. They're, so anyways, don't get me started. It's been just 2 months since Tubby has passed, and it's been really, really rough. Really, really rough. I've never experienced a loss like that, frankly. Anyways, not to mention my sibling, my sister who had passed, which is very traumatic, and my father just a couple of years before that. So there's just a lot. Yeah, and if you're dealing with trauma of any kind, that also, yeah, thank you, that also causes, and you don't realize it's there. Like whether you're consciously thinking about it or not, it's there, and it rears its ugly head. And that's why I always say to people, you know, who don't want to address any of their mental health issues or anything that's going on in their life, that it will catch up with you. It will rear its ugly head. So you're better off dealing with it and working through it and figuring it out rather than letting it rear its ugly head in an inopportune time. But, you know, going back to the project. So, you know, I don't have the jacket here, but I had 2 projects going on at the same time. So the silk skirt, the long skirt, the asymmetrical skirt that was hand draped that I did. And then we have the jacket. So I don't know what the deal is with the jacket, so I can talk about anything else if we're not going to talk about that, because I don't want to talk like I'm blue in the face. But I will tell you that the pattern, the jacket pattern, which is a PDF, downloadable. Yes, don't bottle it up. Don't bottle it up, Joanne. Anyways, if you get my pattern, get it this month, because I'm not doing an infinite sale. It's just for this month. It's 20% off. You can do the downloadable one where it's printed on your computer. This is the letter size. There's the A4. And then there's the large format. That's the only plug I'm going to give. And then you have the pieces to put together. Up-teen amount of videos. I have playlists that I keep, sharing, and I will continue to share. And so that's basically how, I'm going to go about it. So I wanted to do the skirt as well. And so I started working on it yesterday, but or the day before, I don't even know when, because navigating health too has been kind of hard, and other obligations. So, because I do want to photograph this, professionally photograph it before the end of the year. It hasn't been worn yet. It hasn't been professionally photographed. I have the mini dirndl skirt that I put underneath the jacket, but I have not made the long formal skirt that goes with it as well. A little bit more of a complicated thing. And then I also have the fabric for the jacket. So what do you guys want to talk about? Tell me, tell me, because a couple of lives ago, I had kind of a thing in my head, and I was going to do a video on it, and it was about seamstresses, the different types of seamstresses, because I don't know if you know that there are different types of seamstresses. Hard things to sew, like jackets. However, this is where sewing skills really pay off. Yeah, I just think that people, let me go back to that question, because she says some people like to buy harder things to sew, like jackets. However, that is where your sewing skills really pay off. It is, and it's not that hard. And you think it is because it's a jacket, right? But it's really not that hard. And I make it as easy as possible because, number one, it's unlined. I have so many videos showing you exactly how to put it together. You can see I don't dress up. I barely put makeup on. And I had a mask on my head because this is fried. So I don't want you to feel intimidated. The whole point of doing the jacket is to not feel intimidated, because I'm here for you to answer those questions, to see, you every step of the way. But if you're not going to take the first step, then I'm not going to just talk about it. So I will do them, and they will end up probably in videos if no one does it. But get the pattern. Get the pattern. At least get the PDF pattern while it's on sale, and then look at it. Start to check out my videos. Like I said, I even put out the actual live class, paid class, the first session out for you guys to watch. The really tough part, which is the measuring and calculating and marking of the patterns of where you're going to alter and adjust the pattern. So I might put the other ones out too as well. I don't know. I mean, people are just not wanting memberships anymore either. So I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, aw. Thank you. The couture, Susan, the couture coach. Yeah, I want to just do upper scale stuff. That's why I would never, I mean, you can get this t-shirt too cheap. I would never even do that. Although I do have a t-shirt pattern, but my t-shirt pattern is not like any other. It has a special gusset sleeve. It has a special cutout in the back. It's a couture, t-shirt basically. So that I do, because I do believe I'm the t-shirt girl. Like if I could just dress in t-shirts and whatever, even jeans, I would be happy. But anyway, so yeah. So what do you guys, where are you located? Where are you located, Joanne? Just curious. Let me know where people are. Give me information on when you're located. Love to know. So I wanted to talk about sewing, seamstresses. What are seamstresses? What are the different types of seamstresses? And that's where it may debunk your attitude or your feeling of what designers are supposed to be able to do. Like if you're a designer, are you required to be an excellent seamstress? If you're a designer, are you required to be an excellent pattern maker? I mean, not necessarily, but it sure does help, right? It sure does help. So the first thing I learned was sewing. Before I could even sketch my ideas, I was already manipulating patterns at 8 and 9, 10 years old. First job in a sewing circle in St. Pete, Florida at 15, 16. And, fast forward to FIT New York, and then just never stopped, right? Okay, so going back to what a seamstress is. Okay, so you have your basic seamstress, right? So if you try it, what is your favorite pen? I don't know what it's asking me. So the seamstress that makes garments, okay, they sew either in a factory situation, or they sew cottage industry, which is at home for maybe design houses, and they're known to be seamstresses. They just sew. They don't necessarily know anything about pattern making. They can copy what you have. They understand the pattern, and a professional pattern that just has notches and no directions. There might be a sample garment for them. And that is a seamstress. That's what they do. So there's many different levels of that, but I want to back up and talk about what a sample hand is. So a sample hand is, we'll start there, the highest level of the sewing seamstresses. So a sample hand is what you see in these couture houses. Now you get to see them on YouTube, like the, Dior or Chanel or whatever, where they show you behind the scenes. Those people who are making the prototype, where they're making the master garment, those are what they used to call in the industry sample hands. So they are the first, they know everything and they're good at everything. They're not necessarily the fast, speedy factory seamstress, although most of them are. But they work directly with the designer. They work directly with the director of design. If they're not the designer, the pattern maker, the house itself, or the fashion design house itself, in order to be able to sew that first garment. And let me tell you guys, that first garment could take days. Some of my first garments took weeks with these seamstresses, weeks. Okay, not days, not hours, not 5 hours and put it up on a website, because you're working out the design. And so I'm working with the sample hand, or I'm working with the primary seamstress with me directly, and I'm telling them literally, I'm giving them the directions. I'm literally telling them, okay, so the neck now. Okay, now turn this and sew that now. Sample maker, yes. Sample maker, sample hand. So sewing in that respect is the highest level, and there's a lot of revision. So I might work with the seamstress and I might see something. Hey, from Portugal, thank you for joining. So I would do that, and then I would say, hey, stop. Don't like the pattern, whatever. I'm gonna redo that. I'm gonna recut it out, and here, put this one in. So there's a lot of revision. There's a lot of changes when you're working with the sample hand, with the initial design, the initial garment. And I also want the most feedback as possible from that sample maker, right? I want to know that my notches are lining up, that the pieces that are supposed to go together are lining up, and that things are easing in properly, or I'm on there. When I would do it with the sample makers, I would have, the most I had, I think at one time when I was working, with maybe 3 or 4 in-house, and then I would send out certain things to other seamstresses that I knew could do an initial garment as well. But I would be making another pattern at the same time that I'm coaching them on how to make that design. And I'm getting feedback from them. And I'm also, in a weird way, kind of timing it to see, because it is a way to figure out cost, even though it's a little far ahead of when you start thinking out cost. Because if you calculate your sample hand, how long it takes, and then you make that your cost of your garment, unless it's a couture garment and you're only making a one-off of it, you're not going to have a company. You'll be out of business. So, but it's a way for me to gauge and to understand how long something will take, or how difficult something will be, or what machinery is necessary, how much handwork is necessary. So the sample maker, the sample hand, is the number one, right? And they are the most important. They're the most important person to the actual designer, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know if you ever heard the terminology, a model can make or break you, right? Down the runway, that was a terminology that you would hear back in the decades ago, the dinosaur days. Like if that model didn't really show your garment well on the runway, then you're pretty much, right? It's almost the same way with the seamstress. Like if you don't have that kind of relationship with your sample hand, and half of them never spoke English. It was different languages. It was Italian, it was Spanish, it was, and then it was Vietnamese. I mean, so I was very animated, very animated, and I knew certain words. But if you don't have that good rapport or understanding with the seamstress, or respect, because these people most of the time know more than you, and you want them to know more than you. Like I beg them to know more than me, to show me another way of maybe sewing that thing or changing that pattern so it is effective and cost effective and whatever, to be able to do, in the long run when you go to the next steps and the next steps and the next steps. So that's the sample maker. The sample maker or the sample hand. That is a very specific seamstress. Then after that, if you're in-house, let's say you're a small company, and I worked for some smaller companies. I was kind of specialized with a lot of smaller companies where everything was kind of in-house. Maybe a few things were done in factories in other countries like Colombia or China or whatever at the time. So I basically would have to train them as well. And they're a little bit faster. They know already, they're probably going to see that sample. They're going to dissect it. They're going to see it in person. They'll probably see your sketch. And they're in-house, and they're going to sew that garment possibly a little bit faster. You hope. It better be actually a little bit faster, because now you're timing it. Now it's costing money. Now it has to do with the price of your garment at this point. So they are trained to know how to do ready to wear, or whether it's couture or ready to wear. If they're doing the garment again, that goes to that other level of a seamstress. And they also have to know a lot. And then also that sample hand has to be very hands-on with those seamstresses as well. Not just the designer, not just the pattern maker, because I was the designer, pattern maker, bottle maker, all in one, right? Which is, insane, but that's what I did. They would then go to the sample hand and then ask certain questions as well, especially if there's a language barrier, to understand how that garment needs to be put together. So that's the different level that you have, and you can train them. They can be trained just for you. I trained my seamstresses, my sample hands, and the ones who did my small limited edition production type of things. It took about at least 2 years for them to understand my language. And what I meant by that, they understood the way I like to have things done, the way things should be sewn with me, and just in general, how the garment is put together, whether it's this garment or another garment, etc. So there's training involved with these in-house seamstresses that work for companies, small companies that want to do it in-house. And as a pattern maker in fashion industry, okay, so Sonia Pixato, okay, I worked 15 years as a pattern maker in fashion industry, also always preserve the connection with the sample sewers. They're gods. That's why I would get so upset, because because I did all of those other things in other companies, not sit down and sew, although there were times where I was like, just let me get over here and just sit down and sew, or let me show you how I want this sewn. Not that I was a total expert in sewing, because I wasn't, right? But I knew what I wanted and how I wanted it done. But it wasn't till, I think it was the Valentino documentary, and that was back in the 2000s when that came out. This was way before YouTube was, this was like, before YouTube was like 2010 is when I came on YouTube. This was like 2006, 2007. And he finally showed in this documentary all of the sample hands. And not only did he show them and really showcase them, they were invited to the show, and then they came and gave him a hug right afterwards, after the finale. That's when I went, finally. Finally, you're giving respect and you're giving acknowledgement to where it's needed, because they literally will make or break you. No questions. No questions. So yes, having a rapport with them, keeping in touch with them, they are a certain breed of people that are a treasure. And I don't really even know one in this new location where I'm at that I could even call. I don't know if any of them are still on my speed dial situation. You learn a lot from them, you're right, Sonia, because they know. And like I said, also, as a designer, I'm not sewing every day. You know, like it was pissing me off that machine was like, what do you mean? I don't know how to put the bobbin in. I know how to put the bobbin in. And why is it jamming? Like, what's going on with this machine? I don't have the patience anymore, kids. Anyways, that's all they do. Don't bother them. They're not making the pattern. They don't care about the cutting. That's another, animal right there. That's all they do. So they know, and they're always working it out. And if they're really good, they're always trying to work something out. So yes, sample hands. And then you have the in-house seamstresses that are trained by you, the director, the designer, the pattern maker, and the sample hand trains them. And that's the in-house seamstresses. So then you go to what I call cottage industry, which I don't know if it exists now, but it sort of did, where there would be seamstresses that would have their own setup, and I could bring certain garments that I know a certain seamstress could handle. If it was a ruche dress, I knew Maria could do it. If it was more of a tailored garment, I knew, Rosa could do it. And then I would go to and drop these off, give them as much direction as possible, sketches and directions and pictures, sometimes sit with them. And I made the mistake of really babysitting them at times. And I know other people that I worked for did not. And so that took a lot of time on my hand. They also on that same kind of level as the in-house seamstresses that you're using in-house, that you're using, to make your product, to make your garments. And then, so that's what that is. So they're on a different caliber. Now we're gonna push up to mass production type seamstresses. So mass production seamstresses, they're experts at all of it. And they are fast and they're accurate and they're really, really driven, because a lot of these people are paid by the piece, by the hour, you know what I mean? They're not paid to just sit there and give feedback about a garment or a notch, right? So they're fast, they know how to do things properly, and they don't usually make a garment from start to finish. They usually do a portion of a garment, although I always had people make the whole garment, unless I knew that this one was better at finishing, and then maybe that's what they would do. But so they're fast, they know how to do things more production ready, and they're also a breed of total respect that is a dying art as well. Like, you don't see that, right? And so that's where you really clock it in, and that's where the factory owner will be watching, observing the seamstresses. That's where they clock in hours. That's when they really get the price on a garment, and that's when it's real, and that's when the numbers make more sense. Everything else is a projection until it gets to production seamstresses. And that means the pattern has gone through draping, revision, sample hand, production ready, cut, recut, tested, because I tested my garments, guys. I don't know who does anymore, but I tested my garments. And so that's where that would be. So what is an alterationist? This is the interesting part. They're also kind of considered seamstresses, but they are different in the respect that they have more of an engineer mind. Because in order to be a good alterationist, you have to kind of understand the way a garment is made, right? And that's why I always say that a designer or somebody who's worked in that facility or that capacity makes the best alterationist, because they know how that garment is actually made. So they know exactly how it should be taken in or taken out, where. Because you can, take things in very weird places and really mess things up. So an alterationist is also considered a seamstress, but they usually have more knowledge of engineering a garment. They know a little bit more because also they're in the business of taking something apart. So they've already explored, and they're exploring that garment more so than not. And they're learning, so that's the way that company sewed it. That's another thing I can learn. Maybe I'll use that technique in the future, but they know how to actually sew and quasi-engineer. And I'll also go back and say sample hands, most of them also know how to make patterns. A good amount of them understand that too. So that's where that fits in. And then we go to, the home sewer, the person who's just sewing at home, either for themselves or for others. Usually they've learned either from a school or from a person. I remember learning, I was like 7 or 8 years old, and brought in this lady and taught all of us how to sew. But I worked, before I went into design school, from the patterns. So, learning how to read those directions, engineering how to put the garment together. They don't just go by the notches. They don't just go by a picture. They don't just go by pattern pieces and eyeballing those pattern pieces and knowing how they puzzle together. So a seamstress or somebody who sews that is a home sewer is still a very valuable commodity, because they usually have knowledge of pattern making slightly, because they know how to take in and take out. So they kind of have to know a little bit about pattern making. They know how to read the patterns and read directions. So they have that component of engineering and understanding of how a garment is put together, because no one is there coaching them. It's just that black and white directions that they have. So they can be any of those things. If somebody really works hard and sews and is just considered a home sewer and makes for themselves, and then now gets clients or starts to work for a company and sews for a company, they're a huge asset as well, because they have more knowledge and more experience in that realm, if that makes sense. This is where I have to step back and be very clear, though. The home sewing techniques and putting together a garment is different than an industrial factory or couture house assemble of a garment. So there's always a little bit of a change there. And what's so beautiful about YouTube is that now that all of this is all over YouTube, you can grab from a home sewing technique or information. You can grab from watching a couture house back back scene situation. You can learn from, even, I love these videos where it's just somebody sewing, like, and they're from India or whatever, and and I watch the techniques that they're sewing, these fast, amazing seamstresses that can just put this garment together and with ease. So that's the only difference, and that was the stigma about home sewing versus industrial or factory type sewing. But if you learn, and you have the ability to learn now, because there's YouTube, guys, it's all there. You can see all of it. You can be that good in that respect as well. And I'm also seeing the home sewing people that, just did patterns and all of that, creeping into a couture technique, or learning an industrial way to use a certain equipment to finish off their garment, and all of that. So that's the levels of seamstresses there are. And then there's the designer. How much should you know? Well, I'll tell you this. You can't go to school and finish a design program without sewing. You can't get hairy behind the scenes sewing your garment, because I'll find out and you're out, right? So I always found this very interesting, because I did very complicated things at a very young age, that the ones who couldn't sew well did very simple things, right? And then they were like, oh, wow, I'm into simple. But so you could only do what you have the level to do. I always say, even design-wise, you can only create what you have in the bank itself. So that's why I'm always saying, keep looking, keep watching, go to the museums, watch the videos, take garments apart, go to the store and turn them inside out. Learn as much as you can, because the more you know, the more that's put into your bank, the more that you're going to be able to then create on a higher level. And be able to do things like, okay, that jacket isn't so difficult anymore, because I already made this very simple jacket from this Butterick pattern or this Vogue pattern, and maybe I can do hers because she's got the videos and she's got the directions and she's there helping me. So that's where, I think it all crosses over. So in order to actually finish design school, you have to know how to sew, because you're making your final garments, right? No one else is making your final garments. So after that, if you don't like it, you can get seamstresses, you can get people to help you. But the beauty of it is, you want to learn at least the basics, because then you can know what's right and what's wrong when they're sewing your garments. I always say, and now everybody else is chiming in and saying it, that know all of it. Learn all of it. Learn pattern making, learn a little bit of drafting, learn how to alter, learn the fitting, learn the sewing, all of it. Doesn't mean you're going to have to do all of it in your company. It just means that with that knowledge, if you have to, and I've had to, guys, I went to my factory in Chicago on a blizzard, and the seamstress decided she was going to go shopping instead, right? And I'm sitting down and I'm sewing or I'm cutting, right? So you have to know it all, and also in order to do it, in case you need to do it, and you have to know it to know what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, whoever you hire. So that's my spiel on seamstresses. You have any questions? Hopefully I tackled all of it. I'm sure I left something out, but you can tell me. So I know we're close to the holidays, and woof, I'm not sure if I'm going to get these things done, but I'm going to try. Like I said, I don't know if you already, some of you have been following me, some of you have seen it, but I got the fabric for the online jacket pattern, and I'll just kind of put this down a little bit and see if I can show you a little bit more. And this was this beautiful cotton sateen with feathers that I'm a feather person. I believe it's a spiritual thing for me. And I might slightly line, like I might line the sleeve, even though this is not a slippery fabric, and do some other stuff with it, plus the bottoms. And then I have this gorgeous wool and cotton herringbone double face, like insane. This fabric is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So that was what the jacket is going to be made out of. And also I showed you last week how I shrunk my pattern. So if you took the jacket fitting course, you would have done a custom jacket with the jacket pattern to fit you. And that's what we did, and that's what this is. And then if you watch my other videos, recap is that I basically decided I was gonna just make it kind of like a Tom Brown, kind of a shrunken jacket for this one. So I just took up on the sleeve, made the sleeve so it's gonna be more like a 3/4, like it's gonna stop here, even though it's still gonna have the buttons so that, you know, you can wear bracelets. It's also very cool. And I shortened the entire jacket itself as well. All of it was just simply just shortened. If I do cut it out, I might do like a time lapse or something, and then I can post that so you can see the cutting, because I think I'm just gonna talk today till my voice disappears. And so that's for the jacket. The other project that I have to finish, like I said, also before the end, hoping before the end of the year, is the silk skirt to the silk jacket, right? And what is she saying here? I'd love to see what you're saying. Let me look at that real quick, just curiosity. Okay, hi, I'm watching from Greece. Thank you. My question is, how do I start convincing potential clients to buy the clothes I design and make sense? I am new in the field, although both my parents were in the industry. Tough one. Okay. The number one thing, trust me, and I have a support group on my YouTube channel, and you might wanna join that. It is a ridiculously small fee of $9.99 a month. It can be all over the world, and it's a once a month meeting. There you go. Okay, sorry about that. I didn't silence the thing. So the number one thing, and trust me, I hate this as much as you do, is no one knows who you are or where you are or what you're doing. So unless you actually post on some level of social media, no one is going to know who you are. And you can't just put one post with your heading and be done with it. You have to consistently post, and upbeat post about what you're doing. Maybe show a previous client, maybe show a garment, how you made it. Talk about the history. People want to know about the history. If you're still in the industry, or your parents were in the industry. My parents were in the industry. This is generations. So you can see my biography as well to see all of that. People are intrigued by that, and they have to get to know who you are. They have to get to know and like you. Yeah, that's part of it as well. And it's just a matter of getting people to see your work. I still struggle with it. I have patterns, I have a class, and it's not you. It's not something that makes it hard. That's because it's you. It's basically just the way the world is right now. Everybody is struggling. People are very, very particular and cost effective about what they're putting their time, their money, and they have to see, like she said, they have to see the value. You have to add the value. So whatever you're making, whatever type of garment you're making, even though websites are passé, there's still a credibility to it. So to have it also hooked up to some kind of a website where they can see the garment, show them. In Greece, I don't obviously that they don't have, I don't know if they have Google review in Greece, but reviews are big. I mean, I can't go to a store. I can't walk out of my door without somebody texting me and wanting me to review them. And even though that is so huge, I don't really buy a product without seeing the actual Amazon reviews first, literally. So reviews are important, but they're hard to get and they have to be sincere. Social media is number one. You have to be able to do it consistently. And yeah, it's not easy. It's not fun. And you think after a week or two and you're not getting the momentum, then it's not working, let me stop. And trust me, I've been there. I'm there every week. But you've got to do that. And it's never about convincing somebody, a potential customer. I had to learn that the hard way. It's not about convincing somebody. The more I try to convince somebody, the more I look not credible, not in authority, and not somebody who is worthy of your business, right? And I had to learn this from my daughter because she was in advertising, and we get so frustrated. I'm like constantly going, how do I sell this? How do I sell this? How do I sell this? And she would tell me, don't sell anything. And I was like, what are you talking about? I have to sell this. I have to sell this. And she's like, don't sell anything. People just want to be engaged. They want to learn about who you are, learn about what the product is. And then when the timing is right, and that's the hard part, hopefully you're still around or it's still offered, then they'll come back to you. They will. It's interesting. And like Joanne says, selling is nothing more than sharing something wonderful, right? So and then I also had to learn the other part, that people buy with emotion. So they buy when they see something like, wow, or they see something, I can do that, or that's intriguing. And if it strikes a back of your head kind of an emotion on you, then people want it. I still struggle with this. I wish I could hire somebody to do nothing but crazy TikTok videos to promote me, because YouTube is different. It's a different animal, and I have more respect for YouTube. If you're big on YouTube, I have more respect for that than if you're big on TikTok or Instagram, because anybody can get big on TikTok. And if you have Facebook, you can get big on Instagram. I don't have Facebook, so I can never get big on Instagram. But TikTok, I guess, is where it's at. So people are saying to show your work, show the joy of your work, show the product itself, and with striking emotion somehow, if that makes sense. I hope that sort of answers your question. So don't convince anybody. Hence, that's why I'm not doing the jacket today, because I'm not convincing you guys to make the jacket. You don't want to make the jacket? Don't make the jacket. I'll make the skirt instead. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at. So let me show you. So this was the fabric that I did, right? Because the jacket shows, it's very, very low, right? It shows the mid. I have to do, this is going to be the band, or actually the asymmetrical waistband inside of the skirt to support the whole skirt. So that I already did, but the skirt itself is a long asymmetrical skirt. So, and it has this squiggly line kind of thing. So it's a lot. And I said in the very beginning, and I'm going to go back to it. Please, yeah, keep asking. I appreciate it. Send me an email. Send me some of your eliascouture@gmail, ELIASCOUTURE@gmail. And you can show me pictures, you can ask me a question, and I can respond directly to you as well that way, if you want. If it's something pretty intense, then maybe we can do a session. Otherwise, I have no problem answering brief questions on email as well. But I always said that I never designed unless I was motivated, right? But then when you start going on the YouTube wagon train, you have no choice but to be consistent, and then what happens is you become like a little bit of a machine, and then there's no emotion or feeling or whatever, and then you can get burned out if you're giving, and it's not really coming back. So I'm going back to, I want to feel it before I do it. So I'm not planning to do much of anything unless I feel it anymore. So this channel still exists. I appreciate you guys. It first came on because I wanted to help as many people as possible for free, but also have to live. So there's other ways of making money that, with products and coaching and all of that, hopefully so you can survive as a YouTuber as well. And so that will never go away, but I want you guys to check out more of the mental health one or the sleep one, which is Susan Elias Sleep Project. Sign in there. Go ahead and subscribe there, because I want to get to the point where I can make that an actual channel where it's profitable as well, so that we can have the two channels. So if you want to know more of the personal stuff, you're going to see that there as well, with the journey of sleep, and hopefully you'll learn something, because I'm not doing this for my own health. I would rather just sit in my little cubby hole and get better, and no one knows what's going on in my life, and then just come out with a smile. But I thought if I shared it, it would help somebody, so I hope you check that out. But as far as fashion goes, I no longer feel the need to be a machine. I no longer feel the need to just be a robot or production. And it is really hard, going back to your question about how do you convince people to buy. Because YouTube is a free format, essentially, people have the mindset of everything should be free, right? You're here for me. That's not the way the world works. I still buy expensive stuff. I have very expensive taste, and I still have to live. So, it's hard to push that part of it as well. So like I said, everybody is very cautious, but showing your work and being proud of your work and constantly showing what you do is the only way that people will know who you are. And then when they are ready, they will buy. So I rambled all over the place. Any questions? We're almost at the hour, and I said I would cut off at an hour. Yes, wishing you all the best, Fiona, from Joanne Banco. So keep on this. I'll have one more live. Before Thanksgiving, and then we'll see what happens. If you guys like the lives, we might do this weekly. I use your method of draping and the basic bodice, which I've learned from your videos. Thank you. Appreciate that so much. Appreciate that so much. Good for you, Susan. I found and discovered what I don't want is as important as discovering what I do want. It's true. It's true. If you do list what you don't want, it's sometimes the easiest way to find out what you do like. Yes. And so I want to feel it again, and it's important that that happens for me. It is not a job for me. This is who I am. I really believe that I was born to be a designer. I'm gonna die a designer, just like an artist considers themselves an artist from beginning to end. It is not a 9 to 5, but you go through peaks and valleys with it. So, and there's been quite a valley going on. But like I said, if I'm making something or if I'm doing something or if I'm presenting something to you guys, it's because I really want to do it and I want to really feel it. I thank you. Believe in you. I believe in you. Thank you, Sonia. So it's important to really get back to that because nothing else really matters. Nothing else really matters. If this is not screwed on right and you don't feel good and you don't really have your heart in it when you're making it, people know. They can see a mile away. So keep it up, guys. And, you know, don't be afraid of the jacket. I hope you do at least get the pattern and watch some of the videos. But I'm enjoying these lives now because, you know, we can talk about whatever, and I can have a subject that like I had today, and explain that to you as well. So see you soon. Love you guys. Bye. See you next week. Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.